All right, are we ready? Okay. So I'm going to do bowls with handles, or if you prefer bowls with holes. Um, I kind of like the looks of the handle on the bowl. I think it gives it sort of a rustic appearance and everything, and so I decided to put a handle at the top.
Recording in progress.
Put a handle on the top, and this was one of the first ones I did. And the advantage of doing something like this is if you've got a crappy piece of wood with a lot of checking in it, you can either put a bunch of paywahs in it, or you can cut a lot of it out and lose that area for when you want to make the handle. You know, and if you look at this bowl, I probably shouldn't have turned it, but it's got checking all over it. But it's got some really nice looking grain. So I decided I'll go ahead and put some handles on it, cut out a lot of the checking, and what I don't cut out, I can come back and put some paywahs in and make it an interesting piece. So the first thing I want to do is establish where I want my second rim. And I do that by looking at how much material I want to remove. And so this area here is really checked up pretty badly. So I'm going to just arbitrarily kind of look at it and say, I'm going to lose a lot of this one because it has a lot of checking. So I'll put a little mark on it, and then just go ahead and this has gotten out of round, so it's going to be hard to keep a straight mark on it. If I'd done this when I first turned it, then I could have come around and had a nice straight line, but I've gotten it off some here. So this will be where my second rim is. And then I need to decide how I want to design my, my handle and where I want it located. And I've kind of got my tool rest set at the center line of the lathe. This thing is stiff. So I'm going to use this so I can center it on both sides, and then I'm going to kind of pick where I want. So if I put a handle about right there, I'm got good solid wood. I'm going with my grain with my handle so it's not weak in a cross grain section. And all I'm doing here is establishing where I want the center line on my handle is. So I'm just using my tool rest to get it even on both sides. And I've got a little square here. So I'll draw my line down. So this will become the center of where my handle is. So now I've got to decide, what do I want my handle to look like? And I've got an oval template. I thought, well, let's try that and use an oval and make it an oval shaped handle. And so that'll be the exterior part of my handle. nice little curve coming out to my second rim there. And I'll use the template for that as well.
Cody, okay, yeah, that's it. Turn it so we can try to zoom in on what your layout looks like.
You know, and even though I'm an engineer, I'm not one of those real anal ones, and so a lot of my stuff looks a little wonky when I'm done because I like wonky stuff. So I've got it laid out roughly the same on both sides. Then I'll come down and I'll go down to a smaller oval. Well, wait a minute, I'm doing that backwards here. Yeah, I want to lose a lot of the rims. I'm going to go to the smaller oval. And this one I'm going to draw the complete oval. And that'll be my hole.
Why didn't you draw the complete oval to start with?
I could have. It's just sort of how does your brain work? You want to do the hole first and then do the outline or whatever. I've done it both ways. And when I do an oval bowl, I'll probably do the hole first and then go to the outside, because I'm kind of trying to mirror the outer rim. So now I've got it kind of laid out, where my holes are going to be, where my second rim's going to be. So then I'll drill a hole in it, a couple of holes actually. And I want to try to drill it perpendicular to as much of the curve as I can, so I'm not going too much at an angle. And I'm kind of moving it around a little bit because I don't want it to blow out the backside too much.
Can I suggest that you drill a pilot hole and then drill in both directions?
You could do that, yeah.
It'll save that pop out.
Yeah, but I'm in a hurry.
That's a cross country song, right?
Yeah. Now, what I would typically do, but I'm not going to do it today, is I would go ahead and drill a hole here. And the reason why I want to do that is because when I go to start cutting it, my angle is changing on my blade.
Right.
And so if you don't drill a hole here, then you've gotten your angle off, but you can always address that when you sand it. But it makes it a little bit easier if you drill it. But I'm not going to drill it today.
Cody, could you point out what you were talking about?
Yeah. Right here. So, if you're cutting here, and I'm going to angle the blade on my jigsaw so that I'm cutting straight as opposed to at an angle. When I get to here and I start making that turn, the blade is going to angle. So if you drill that, then you don't have as much as you got to come back and clean up. Does that make sense? If you drill right here?
So you drill a hole to get a radius at that corner.
Right. Right. So that if you're cutting it with a saw, your radius is going to be at an angle. So then I'm going to come back with my jigsaw. And I'm going to set it up to sort of, as close as I can, match the angle of the contour of the bubble. And I'm not going to get it exactly right because I can't even hold it straight enough to cut it, but I'm just trying to get it approximate. So I'll go ahead and I'll cut the upper side of the first hole.
Can you turn it to the camera, please?
Can you see the cut? Then I'll do the other hole. Now, if you'll pardon me, I'm going to turn my back to you so I can cut the other side. I think I got my angle screwed up. But that's okay. It would work better if I cut it here. All right, so I got a lot of cleanup I'm going to have to do on these holes, but with the jigsaw, you're only going to get it so good anyway. So I've got my 2 holes. Now I'm just going to come back and cut the rim off. well. All right, have to save me a little work at the end. I meant to do that.
You planned it.
I planned that. Now let's see if I can hold it and cut it.
How about just put it on and bring the center up to,
I don't think it'll hold. So there you go. And normally I would mount it with a rubber chucky and turn my bottom off, but
it's already done.
it's already done.
Would you recommend using larger jaws, larger timber?
Probably. Well, and I'd also recommend doing it all at once and not letting it set for 3 or 4 days. Yeah. So, now to go back and clean it up, dress it up, do some more sanding, and I think I'll have a fairly nice bowl. I mean, I could have done a better job sawing out my pieces if I'd have taken more time to get my angle right. And I can go back and dress that up. But, I mean, you got the gist of what the thought is.
So now, what kind of tools do you use when you're cleaning?
I usually use a Fordham with a little, I bought those little sanding pads that come down and then a cone shape. They have a triangle on the end, but they're cone shaped with a rubber backing. But you can also use just rasp, sandpaper, a Dremel, whatever. I mean, you can do. It's pretty easy to clean up. So that's a pretty simple one. And excuse me for doing this in front of a crowd and not getting everything looking nicer, but
It looks fine.
yeah.
It shows the process.
So I showed you the process. So that's a round and brown bowl. And I thought, well, how can we make this a little more interesting? And I started thinking about oval bowls. And as I was thinking about oval bowls, I was trying to figure out what's the best way to do it. And then I thought about, well, when you do a natural edge piece, it's going to be an oval. So I thought, well, let's take a round log and turn it round. I mean, I'm really sharp, round log, round. And so, my 4th grade teacher told my parents, she had a hard time saying anything good about me. She told my parents, she says, well, he has limited potential. But the good news is he gets lucky sometimes and exceeds his potential. And, that was the nicest thing she could say about me. So, God rest her soul. I was her student in the last year she taught, and she should have retired probably 20 years earlier. But I'll always remember Miss Brillhart. So what I did was I just took a round log, mounted it with a spur drive, and turned it round, turned the bark off of it, and then took my chainsaw and split it in half. And when I did that, I came back and I turned it like I would a natural edge piece. And then I cut some holes in it and made some handles. So that, I think that's an interesting bowl.
Yeah.
And if you wanted to change the shape, you can shorten it. You can make it a narrower bowl or shorter bowl or wider bowl or whatever. And so you can play with your shape. And the things you have to be cognizant of is if there's any checking, like this log is trying to check here, got to be cognizant of where your pith is, because a lot of times when you turn a bowl, it's going to try to crack around the pith. And so I want my pith to sort of be at the center of whatever I'm going to cut the bowl at. So that way I'll end up turning that area off, and not have the center.
So Cody, I'm having a hard time figuring out how you got from the log to that shape. What is the configuration that you're?
I just took the log, mounted it between centers, and turned it around.
That's all I got.
It's just a cylinder.
And then what you
Then I split it.
do? Then you mount it.
Yeah, I'm going to get to that.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to get to that. No. That's another thing I did that was real sharp this week. I've got a battery-operated chainsaw. It wouldn't work. And I'm like, what's going on? It's, and I messed with it. I cleaned my contacts and everything else, and then I was ready to take it into the shop. And then I realized I had the chain brake on. They won't start if the chain brake's on. So if you want to do just a basic oval bowl, split it in half, which I've done with my chainsaw. Then I'll come back and I'll mount my spur drive. I saw one earlier.
There's one on this end. Behind the,
Okay. And I'll find my center point here, and I'll mount it like that. And I'll turn my tenon. I'll shape the bottom of it. So I'm basically turning this area. And with my tenon, and when I'm doing this, I'm cognizant of how wide I want it, how long I want it. If I want a short, fat oval, I'll bring my curve up sooner or sharper. Does that make sense? If I want a long, narrow bowl, I'll take it out as far as I can this way. And so you can sort of play with the shape that you want your oval when you do that. This is red oak. And that was another thing, and messed up my lathe big time. I cleaned it up, I lubed it up, but then I put a towel down on it and I put the bowl on it, left it overnight, and it went right straight through that towel, and I had to get the steel wool out, clean up my lathe bed. So you can take basically that, turn it like you would a natural edge piece. You got to turn your air, you got to turn up your speed. And I've got a piece here that I'm going to show you how I did these holes with in a minute. But I think you can play with it and get a nice little elegant looking bowl. If that makes any sense. I did. I'm sorry?
Will that move?
Yeah, it'll move. That's like I said, I like wonky stuff.
nice thing about an oval one, you never know it moves.
Yeah. It might rock a little bit when you're doing it. So then I thought,
Why'd you do a tenon versus a
Say that again?
Like, why not just throw a faceplate on here instead of doing a fender?
Well, I didn't want to deal with the drill holes for one hole.
That's the wrong
Yeah,
way.
but the drill holes would be gone.
No,
No, I turned the tenon on the bottom.
Oh, you did? Oh, okay.
I just used the spur drive on the top. You could use a faceplate. You could use a worm screw. But for me, it's just quicker to use a spur drive.
Yeah, no, I thought you said the other way around. When you said, I thought you meant you put the,
No,
I
no.
thought you meant you put the tenon on.
I turned the bottom first. I turned the bottom first.
I got you.
So I'm using that so I can mount it. So then I got this crazy idea. You know, I thought, what if we,
Hang on, Cody, we're having a discussion.
okay,
Bottom, the spur drive or the bottom of this log, take the half log there.
yeah,
The bottom of the bowl
Where's your
is where your fingertips are.
Right.
The inside.
That's the
No.
bottom. That's the bottom?
that's the bottom.
That's the bottom.
Oh, and that's how you get the oval shape.
That's how you get the oval shape. Because when you're cutting it up,
Oh,
Yeah.
I see now.
Think of natural edge bowls.
yeah, if you think
It's
of a
basically a natural
bowl,
edge that doesn't have the natural edge anymore.
yeah, it's a natural edge bowl, but you're making everything uniform rather than having the bark and everything else. You know, so if you're looking for sort of a finished bowl with handles, and it's, you know, it's going to be an oval, but it's going to have a curve on your rim. Does that make sense? Okay.
So Cody, if you put that blank you have in your hand down on the bed of the lathe with the flat part down,
Yeah,
that's the way it's oriented to the piece next to it, yeah?
that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And, you know, here's a piece without the holes in it. So when I turn that, you know, I'm starting, and I've got the rounded edge here, like this.
Oh.
So I turn the bottom first, and then when I flip it around, it's going to have the round here, but when I hollow it out, I'm removing most of that round section, and so the only round part I'm leaving from here is the rim. So, yeah. Okay. So now it's going to get really kind of messed up in your head. And I apologize for that. I thought, all right, I want to make it more interesting, and I want to make something that has not a full oval, but a double curved oval. Does that make sense? Okay. If you look at it, this oval is going to go one way. But if this oval were to continue, it'd be a different oval. Does that make sense? All right. So how did I do that? I went back and I remounted my log, and I turned it into sort of a football shape from the edge. I mounted it 1 inch off center. And so I'm only cutting one side of it as it's turning. And I only cut down the ends, not in the middle. You can cut in the middle. It doesn't really matter, because when you hollow it out, you're going to come out below where that is. You're going to go back to the original contour of the log. Am I making sense? Okay. So I got a blank now.
How much did your machine jump now to turn that?
A lot. I mean, you know, when you do this stuff, you got to be able to chase your lathe. That's why my stuff doesn't look really nice and smooth and perfect. because I'm always chasing the lathe around. Yeah, yeah. She said, you know, when he's chasing that thing around, he gets lucky every now and then. So now when I split my log, I've got one half that's like this, nice and round. But then I've got another half that's flatter. Because I've turned it off center. See that?
So you gotta do that with two different, for each end, you gotta have a separate off-center.
Yeah. Yeah, so I check it off, both sides, off 1 inch.
Yeah, and then you reset the other one off and do the other one. Okay.
So when I turn it off center, you want me to move? So when I turn it, it's, you know, the curve is flatter here and more round here on the sides and flatter at the top. Does that make sense? Okay. So when I turn it this time,
Need to have audio direction.
when I turn the bottom this time, I'm thinking about, okay, what do I want to do? So I'll turn off a spot here, which corresponds to my flatter curve, where I'm going to establish the top of my bowl there. And then I'm going to come back, and when I do my bottom curve, I'm going to come down and then I'll follow the contour of where the bowl is. Does that make sense?
I think so. So, is that thing, is that asymmetric now? That piece when it's done?
It may be a little bit because I may not have kept everything perfectly straight, not on purpose.
Okay, all right.
But you know, if I'd done everything perfectly straight and centered and everything else, it wouldn't be asymmetric. But you know, I like
You
one.
can make it asymmetric if you only flatten one end.
Yeah, yeah, you could do that. Which that's sort of the rabbit hole I'm going down. You know, I may be there the next time. I might be flat in the middle. Who the hell knows where I might be. But so by doing that, I'm able to get a different looking type of bowl. It also, when you're flattening this top part, you can widen your bowl, because when you do your cutting here, you hit the flat spot sooner, so you can make your ends wider by doing that. Okay. I'm hesitating.
We believe you, but we don't understand.
If I had more potential and less luck, then I could explain it to you. But I operate on luck a lot of times. So that you can then, you're not just dealing with a single oval. You can play around and you can do different things with your shape.
Are you saying, Cody, when you put your log back on and you make it like an inch off center,
Yeah.
you haven't split it yet?
No.
Okay, so it's only after you get all that off center stuff, then you split it,
Right.
correct?
Right.
And then that's how you get that.
Right. And if you look at this log,
You can see with the,
you can see where I mounted it off center.
yeah.
And this is the half that was still symmetrical.
So
The-
you lost the other half.
The other half is what I made that bowl with.
Okay, got it, all right, got it.
You can see that the radius, you got a bigger radius, so
Yeah,
Obviously, you were further away on that.
yeah, yeah.
Could've done both sides.
You could have shifted it, like, you could have shifted from center to the other side, and then,
Well, if you'd have to you'd have to turn it 3 times.
Yeah.
You'd have to turn it off center.
make it round once, offset one side, and on one side,
Yeah.
the other side,
Yeah,
and then you'd split it and have two flanks.
yeah. But I was doing a demo. I had to do something fast. You know. But yeah, you could do that. Where was I? I'm still hung up on Miss Brillhart. You know, I'm trying to make her happy. Okay, the other thing you can do, if you don't want to turn it off center and you want to change the shape a little bit, you can do your oval. But when you start turning this side, just turn flat spots on the ends. So you're basically truncating your oval. And you've changed the shape of your bowl. And then when you come back and you cut your holes, it's going to look different. So to me, this is kind of exciting. You know, you can go out there and see how lucky you can be and play around with different sizes of wood and everything else and make them fatter, make them shorter, make them off center. So you can, and this is getting away from the bowls with holes concept, but when you add holes to them, they get even more interesting. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so enough on turning ovals. I'll show you what I do to cut the holes in this one. And it's basically the same process. It's just here I'm not cutting anything on the rim. I'm just cutting the hole. And so again, you know, I've started out turning it this way. And you can, if you use a worm screw, you know, you'd mount it with your chuck with the worm screw. You might need to flatten out your curve so you get a nice, solid, snug holding power. But I've done that with the spur drive. So then I'm going to flip it around. And if this was still round, then I would just haul it out, and I'd basically just follow the contour that I established from the bottom. And I'd clean it up. So now I want to try to hit the center. And I usually will just eyeball it from where I want my highest point. On one side, and hopefully when I try to transfer that across, I'm somewhere close. Am I at sort of my, okay. So, I know this thing is stiff. This is stiff too. Yeah. So then I'll just try to get a line that hopefully is somewhere towards my center line. And now I need to think about, okay, do I want a big hole, small hole, round hole? What kind of hole do I want? Do I just make an oval hole? Oval hole, okay.
Gotta have an oval that'll kind of follow your
Yeah, I don't know if any of them will kind of follow it or not.
Depends on how lucky you
Yeah, is this my lucky night? Oh, that one looks pretty good to me.
Yeah.
Which one was it? Must have been that one. Well, I guess I should try to get them both in the same spot.
Only engineers have those templates.
Yeah. It just tells you that engineers have to take drafting classes every now and then. All right, so got ovals on both sides. Hopefully they're the same size. I didn't bring a smaller bit, I'm sorry. Can't drill a pile hole. Now, the first one of these I did, I hadn't noticed, but I had some checking on the end. When I went to drill the hole, I blew that wing off. So, I might blow a wing off, but hopefully I'll be lucky. Should I do both of them, or am I going to bore you? Just do one? Okay. Yeah, that angle's okay. Okay. So I'll clean that up, sand it up, slap some finish on it. You know, so that's how I would do an oval bowl. And it's basically the same process, you know, with any other shape you want to do. How am I doing on time? Okay, well, I really didn't have much else I want to cover, but, you know, I'll try to answer any questions. Maybe I'll get lucky and come up with a good answer.
Yeah, I want to go back to your double curve bowl.
Yeah.
I can kind of visualize, like you say, you turn the outside off center on the ends to make kind of a football shape.
Mm-hmm.
But then when you turn it around and mount it to follow contour, it looks to me like you won't be able to get an even wall thickness
It is a
on the
challenge.
two different.
It's a challenge, and if you look at this one, it's not quite even. I mean, but that will be part of your challenge, is getting that wall thickness the same throughout.
But that is more or less a handle design.
Yeah, it is more or less a handle design. I was thinking you could possibly, and I haven't tried to do this, leave like a round rim, you know, like a rounded bead. I don't know if you can do that or not. I was thinking that might be a possibility of something you could do as you're doing that.
Because the wings are flat,
Yeah.
you get a bead around that top.
Well, on this other one, I mean, that wing is not flat, which because of the off-centered curve. This one, the wing is flat. And so you could probably, as you're turning this, rather than turn that flat off, turn you a bead on that part. And then you couldn't continue to bead all around, but on your handle you could have a bead. Does that make sense? Yeah. I don't know if you could do that on this one or not.
What about a router bit?
You could probably do a lot with a router bit, yeah. I'm not sure I'd want to try to hold it and router around that rim, but you might be better with a router than I am. Luck doesn't help me with a router. So, so any other, and to finish the bowls, I mean, I use, you know what a rubber chucky is? It's just a rubber. So I'll just mount it, you know, and turn my tenon off, and then with standing disc and a drill, just clean everything up. And I finish, these types of bowls, I would usually use walnut oil. If you wanted, you know, gloss, you could do whatever finish you wanted to do.
How long does it take you from, once you got all your holes, to finish the bowl?
Oh, probably an hour.
Oh, that's all?
Yeah, it's not long. I mean, you can clean the holes up pretty quickly. And, you know, with walnut oil, it's a real quick finish. So, yeah. Yeah, but I mean, you know, anytime you're working with green wood, you gotta worry about how it's gonna check,
Yeah.
what it's gonna do, and this one's got a knot in it. I had one that I turned, and this is off a tree that fell in the woods behind my house. And so at the base of the tree, you know how when it falls, it's kind of, you got pieces that are trying to rip up. I thought I was beyond all that. But after I turned it around and set it in the floor, the next day I came back, there was a section just was peeling back. So, and I didn't see that at all when I was turning it around. So, you know, obviously if you are working with a nice seasoned piece that's fairly well cured, you have more idea of what you want to do. You know, this one, I wasn't as cognizant of where my pith was. So you can see I've got, so this might come back and crack in these areas. But if I'm lucky, it won't crack.
I mean, I made a white oak bowl that was like a big banana, and I had the pith right through the center of it.
Yeah.
It worked out okay, it didn't really crack much.
Yeah, well, even if it gets some small cracks, it gives a little character. Yeah, and if you look real closely, I didn't get this hole centered up very well. But that's okay. I mean, it's a country style bowl.
Yeah.
Well, that's all I got, folks.
All right. Excellent.